Hi, my name is Shani Zade. I am official Code Bro Cafe.
What happened there was we were streaming to the wrong channel, and I was in the live stream studio sorting out the stream code. So thanks for taking over. I really appreciate that. Wow, okay. With all this load shedding and stuff, it's brain shedding as well taking place at this point in time. But in any case, guys, what's happening? Name is Jean. You should know that by now. If you don't, hi, my name is Jean. And yes, I am one of the Code Bros. My brother Michael's not here right now, and he's the other bro of Code Bros. So let me just quickly, Damien, do you mind just quickly running and just dropping the volume on that TV behind the coffee section?
There's so many TVs.
So yeah, I'm hearing echoes and stuff and all that, whatever. But the lighting looks better this on my device, so that we can obviously just notice those questions popping through a little bit later. So firstly, as you can see at the back here, we've got a bunch of, I think they were busy playing Fortnite. Yeah, Fortniters, busy having some intense matches because there was a very clear shout of something. I think it was No Man or something. So, yeah, sounded like a No Man. And the amount of growth I have seen, like, just in the space of 6 months has been astounding. I mean, even prior to that, the stuff you were able, it was literally an adventure that seems to be fantastically successful. I mean, like really, I really, if I was wearing a hat, I would tip one to you, because seriously, I'm very, very impressed and very proud of you, friend. You've done a great, great, great job. So I'm going to pop in with that question. Yes, okay, so yeah, Shani will get to describe herself any second now, as soon as I hand over the microphone to her. My first question to you is going to be, so I obviously know your backstory, what you've done, where you've come from, but a lot of people that probably don't know the full backstory, I would like them to know more about you, where it started, how it started. How old were you when it started? What was your first stream? And what made you decide to take this whole new venture turn?
Right, so give me that microphone, John. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to get a message. Be like, Shani, we would love to have a chat with you. I think there's a ton of people out there that would be interested. I'm not full-time streamer, but I have started streaming, which has been an eye-opener for me. But to get down to the nitty-gritty of, if you have no idea who I am, my name is Shani Zade. I didn't do gaming on my channel for the first full year. It was only after I'd invested in an Elgato for my consoles that I actually stepped into the gaming scene. And then I remember my first ever game I played on my channel was, I'm pretty sure it was Wii, like Mario Kart. It was Mario Kart on the Wii, I'm pretty sure. And I did it dressed as Mario, and it was very strange. But I am a gaming YouTuber now, a very big focus on gaming, but I do cover all of my interests. So I've always said, just to take a step back, myself as a person, I have a ton of interests ranging far and wide, over and above the gaming. Of course, as gaming is my die-hard passion, but I come from a dancing background, come from a graphic design background. I came from a very different like kind of field where I was in graphic design and events and everything. And I mean, I would go to craft beer festivals. I would go to, obviously I became known for Rage videos, where I would do one every day when we were going to Rage. So that's how the community at that point. So I think I had like 100 followers, but I loved that engagement where I'd ask a question or I'd ask an opinion on something, and then someone would respond back and either have an opposing.
What's for lunch is the most famous one, and I love seeing all the responses.
So ironically, right, so What's for Lunch actually started back in my waitressing days, where if you've ever waitressed or waited, you would understand this, where you obviously have staff meals that you can order from the menu, and you have no idea, you never know what you want for lunch. And that started with, I'd be looking at the menu, I'd be standing at the counter and be like, guys, what's everyone having for lunch? That ended up translating over into Twitter, and now 4-5 years down the line, it's just something that I ask, and now it's more of a, I'm going to get ideas from everyone else kind of thing. But I like the engagement that the Twitter community that I then had was forming. And I'd always been that person in our friend group ever since small, that I started on Windows Movie Maker when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I would make those really cringy old family videos of like putting them together to really cringy copyrighted music, and started making montages like that. And I was like, well, I've always made content. I've always made videos. I love it. Why not start putting it on YouTube? And that's where the channel started. I was absolutely gobsmacked when I hit 50 subscribers, and now I'm 3,300 strong, and it just blows my mind that I've been myself the entire time, and people are actually like, hey, we like this little energetic ball of fun, because we're currently sitting now, so we're more or less the same height. I'm only 1.5 meters tall, basically. I'm 178. 158. 158, there we go. Numbers getting, it's load shedding, it's brain shedding, that's what it comes down to. No, but like, when people sit down and then when we stand up, they're like, oh my goodness. When people meet me in real life, they're like, Shani, you're tiny. I'm like, I know. I'm only 157 centimeters tall. Shit, so that's how I started initially.
Awesome sauce. Thank you very much. Yes, look, Elgato is a very important thing for a streamer to invest in. But I have a question here from Saltlight Gaming. What's happening, Saltlight? Do you have any tips for someone who would want to stream in the future? So like a starter. If they cannot afford an Elgato right now and can only use like the built-in stuff like Mixer or a PlayStation streaming format, is that sufficient? Do you think they can start a channel that way? Do they have to have a face cam? Don't they have to have a face cam? What would you advise to Salt?
So my initial response would be, I obviously made the transition from pure YouTube content creation, very curated content, doing 6 or 7 takes and then going into the editing and then posting a video. I started casting purely because I'm a Call of Duty commentator. So that means that if you're not in the esports realm, I commentate over professional Call of Duty, or at least competitive gaming in South Africa when it comes to Call of Duty. So that's when I jumped into the streaming. I've now been streaming for just over a month. And I would say, you know what, if you have something that you can stream off of, and even if it's the bare basics, so the mixes of the world, the streaming straight from your PlayStation using the built-in sharing, go ahead and do it, because you're never going to start otherwise. It's the same with if you just want to make content full-time. Well, not full-time, but if you want to start making content, you don't need the top of the range stuff. I never had an Elgato for the first year that I did YouTube, and then when I invested, then I could do the gaming stuff. And you don't need a face cam to start off with. I would say that if you can, try and invest in a little bit of a microphone. It doesn't have to be top of the range, doesn't have to be like the be-all and end-all of microphones, but obviously people aren't going to want to be listening to really terrible audio. So if you want to focus on something first, once you've got everything that you can stream off of, obviously audio is not make or break either, but I would think that would be the first suggestion, is invest into, even if it's a headset, that it's going to be closer to you. Because I mean, I know we have 5 dogs on our property. And if I have a microphone sitting on the other side of the table that can pick up everything, you're going to hear those 5 dogs at some point. I also know, if anyone's watching from my YouTube content and the streams, I have Hardie-Dars that live in the tree literally right by where my studio is. So we hear them in the evenings as well, and it's great. So I would say just start. Don't let anything hinder you from starting. But I would say that audio is probably the first thing you need to think about, is because if someone comes in, your mic is scratchy and there's an echo, people are going to click off just because they don't want to be there for that kind of experience.
Edgar, for instance.
How's it, Edgar? How are you doing? He's one of my co-casters.
Awesome. What's happening, Edgar? Thanks for joining in. Then we have got Sheldon asking, what got you into gaming? Why do you game?
Wow, so I'm going to give you the condensed version of this, because I have actually explained this, and I don't want to put Jean to sleep either, because it's actually quite a lengthy story. But long story short, I am now, as we sit here now, I'm 25 years old. I started gaming when I was 3 or 4 years old. My older brother, Glenn Zade, he happens to also be a streamer, so clearly it runs in the family. Of the 4 siblings, there's 2 of us that are diehard gamers, and the other 2 could not give 2 hoots about gaming. They understand it to the point where we're the ones that they phone when their children need help with gaming. And hi, please help us, we can't get the headset working. Have you unmuted it? No, I didn't think of that. So that's what my brother and I as the gamers deal with in the rest of our family, to give you some idea of the scope of gamer versus non-gamer. But my older brother, there's a 17-year age gap. He got me into gaming. I think I used to watch him, and this is probably my favorite story that I've been quoted on time and time again, is that I used to watch him play Tomb Raider, which is probably not the best game to watch your 3-4-year-old sister play, but I would run out of the room when anything scary happened, and then I would come back in and be like, okay, cool. And eventually I just started invading too much on his own gaming time, playing FIFA Manager and everything like that. So he built me my own second-hand PC of parts that he had laying around. And by the time I was 5, I was installing like Jumpstart Kindergarten and all the Jumpstart games myself. And I was like, cool. Now you look at kids today, they're 3, and you're like, wow, you can do so much more than I had, like, talent in my pinky when it comes to like technology. So that's how I got into gaming initially. My brother bought me a secondhand PC, moved over to, what did I move over to then? PlayStation 2. Because my parents just didn't want to keep up with the continually upgrading a PC. So I moved over to console, and I never left because, I mean, I moved over to Xbox 360. That's where the Shani ZA handle was born when I created my first Xbox Live account, and I never looked back. Yes, I do have a MSI that I have had the privilege of playing off of for the last month, where I've been playing most of the games that are Play Anyway titles. I've been using a controller, so console gamer at heart, but I mean, graphics on PC. I see what it's about now when it comes to PC Master Race. I do have to concede about that.
Wow, you actually dropped the term Master Race. Oh, wow. Wow. I can't believe you did. So I'm impressed. We've got a question from Cypher. What would you say to aspiring female streamers or YouTubers in South Africa?
So I feel obviously we've got a ton of women now coming into the scene. Obviously, myself being one of the people that managed to happen to own our space. I think that comes from, I mean, we were having a chat earlier that I do come from a corporate background and that I do have experience with dealing with clients and stuff. So when it came down to it, just be yourself. Don't try and mimic whatever you see on the internet. I mean, this isn't really prevalent in South Africa, but I've noticed for newer content creators where I'll get sent a link. I actually have a contact that I have via my brother that's not a gamer. He was telling one of his clients that, hey, my sister has a YouTube channel, and the client was like, cool, my daughter that lives in Australia now also has a YouTube channel, and we got in touch, and she actually happens to be a massive Pokemon fan, and she does a lot of Pokemon content. But through that, I got involved with a lot of other, like the Australian community and like people that are starting there. And then as much as they're Australian, they put on American accents because that's what they think sells their channel to people, and that's what they think is what people want. And I'm like, be yourself, firstly. So, of course, speaking to the South African audience, foreigners love our accents. So be yourself. Don't put on any accents. Coming down to the female side, I mean, you're going to, to be completely brutally honest, you're going to get it a little bit harder than the rest of the community, in that typically, unfortunately, there is the, she's gaming, but she doesn't actually know what she's talking about. Meanwhile, you do. It's a little bit of you need to prove yourself a little bit more, whereas if you have a thick enough skin, you can eventually get over that, because eventually people will realize, wait, well, okay, you do actually know what you're talking about. I had that when I started casting COD. They're like, well, how do you cast COD if you've never been a competitive player in your life? I'm like, I've been watching since Ghosts, and I put the hours in World War II, because World War II is the first game I started commentating. And after my first stream, all of the little comments about, oh, what does Shani actually know? They were like, wow, well, she actually knows what she's talking about. So be yourself, and make sure that you can hold your own in a conversation, and don't doubt yourself. I think that's the biggest thing.
Confidence is always key. I mean, that confidence just, at number one, it calms the other people down, and then gets them to pay attention to what you're saying. And once they're paying attention, they'll actually go from listening to hearing. I think that's the thing, is actually being heard in the community. So get that confidence out there so that you can be heard. And once you're heard, make your mark, get your footprint, get into the sand, get down and dirty, make your name known. That's awesome. Thank you very much for tipping off on Cypher's question there. So, do you enjoy first-person shooter games or MMO games? We'll get to Edgar's question shortly, But yeah, first person only, MMO not so much.
So MMO, no. I am still obviously a console gamer at heart, having just recently started the whole PC side. But I am a die-hard FPS fan, given that Call of Duty obviously is part of my daily routine at this point, having casted games, obviously getting a ton of time in a blackout. But then over and above that, I do have such a strong love for RPG. So like Mass Effect, there's a reason I have the Paragon symbol tattooed on my wrist from the original trilogy. We won't talk so much about Andromeda, although I have heard it's become a lot better since the patches.
Why does everybody hate on Andromeda so much?
Probably because I got the like super duper collector's edition coming from the love of the original Mass Effect, and then the first 10 hours were just terrible. But like I said, I have heard it's gotten a lot better. So it is on my list to replay. It is on my list, but I mean, RPG is a big thing for me. Assassin's Creed. Then getting into a little bit more RPG, third person, Gears of War was probably one of my favorite titles to play co-op with one of my very good friends, Dylan. He and I, there was never any real like relationship between the two of us to start off with, but like we would spend weekends at each other's houses, both of our Xboxes set up, and we would just grind through like horde mode to try get to the top of the whatever we were doing that weekend. Like that was Gears of War, Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect, as I had mentioned. And then I have a very strong love for The Sims. I mean, I do Sims console stuff on my YouTube now, and I think that has been a little bit of a differentiator. You were saying about Own Your Space and how you kind of need to find your niche. Obviously, Sims has been out for ever and a half on PC, and of course, when it comes to Let's Plays and stuff, people are going to rather want to watch the mods, and they're going to rather want to watch custom content and all the million of packs that are available for PC. When Sims drops on console, I was like, this is finally my chance to not only play a Sims game again, because I didn't have anything to play Sims off at that stage. And I was like, well, Let's Plays aren't going to work for me, so I'm going to go into the tips, because I have sat, because I spend so much time playing The Sims, a simple thing like, and this is my go-to example, a simple thing like switching to the eraser tool when you're busy painting terrain. There's nothing on the internet, apart from my video now, hey, you should go watch it, but there's nothing on the internet about how to switch to that damn eraser key. And I sat for 4 or 5 hours trying to figure it out. Eventually I'm like, oh, you need to just press Y? Cool, I'll make a video about that and help other console simmers that are in the same feeling. When Pets dropped, it was the same thing. How do we get into the custom of like detail painting? I did a thing, I recreated my Dalmatian, and people were like, oh, please make a more in-depth tutorial. And I was like, well, I found my niche. As much as I have the serious esports Call of Duty side, I'm still myself and I'm still staying true to, but I also love Sims. So you have to find that balance.
Indeed. And now with that word being dropped so many times, Call of Duty, let's have a look at the Call of Duty mobile release, or at least announcement trailer. So some pretty awkward conversations going on there with regards to a bug that's been bugging us the whole time while we're talking here, and we're trying to keep cool. And so that's why I was like, we're breaking now so I can get rid of that. So it's gone now. So Call of Duty for mobile. What?
So I didn't ever expect them to actually make the jump into mobile. Obviously, we've seen it go really well with Fortnite. Obviously, I've just spent 2 weekends with a mobile Fortnite tournament as well. So I don't know how I feel about it just yet. Obviously, it's not going to be the same on mobile as it is on console and PC, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I mean, I asked COD today on Twitter, like, guys, what are your thoughts? And people were immediately like, no scuffs. And I was like, well, that's kind of the point, but if I have to give, because I will be chatting about this in After Action Report on Friday. So that is a series, if you're not familiar about it, but that is a series that I've started running on my channel where I give an update weekly for how the competitive scene in South Africa is doing, what's going on with the meta, what's going on with the game. Obviously, they're updating it every so often. So After Action Report episode 17 is due to go out tomorrow, and then episode 18 will be out on Friday. But I honestly feel that mobile is potentially, because obviously it's going to have a specific age restriction, so it's not like Fortnite that can come in and be for the kiddies. So I feel like COD on mobile might be that little bit of a stepping stone and a push that you need for the casual gamer, because obviously you get people that don't consider themselves gamers, but then you go and check and they've got like the high score in Candy Crush, and you're like, listen, you're counting as a gamer, you count as that demographic. You're sure you're on mobile and whatever, but I mean, if you look at the statistics, I don't obviously have any statistics on hand here, but mobile is king, especially in like today's day and age. More people have access to a mobile phone than they do to a gaming setup, because I mean, hello, price. So I feel like for Call of Duty, it's a smart move if they can get the game mechanics correct, and if they can get it to feel like it's never gonna feel like a Call of Duty as it's the same on console. We have to approach it as a mobile game, but I feel like that might be able to be the push to get like casual people that are playing on mobile to jump into a game of COD on mobile, realize that, hang on, I quite like this. Maybe let's invest in a console. Maybe let's invest in a PC to start playing like more serious Call of Duty titles. So I don't know, maybe this is the title that stays around for a couple of years rather than us getting a new title every year, as we are always talking about in the esports community. But I think that that's going to be an entry point, at least if they can get it like down to the T. If it's a clunky game that doesn't work on mobile, then I don't think it stands a chance. But if they can get the good feeling on a mobile game and make it a good mobile game first and foremost, regardless of the fact that it's Call of Duty, I feel like that might be able to plant the scene in a bunch of people's minds that, hang on, I really enjoy this. Let me move over and invest either on Xbox, either on PlayStation, or go the full like Monty and get a PC.
Yep, and they, you know, if the footage is anything to go by, because obviously needed to be ported for us to be able to watch that trailer, the graphics do look pretty good for a mobile gaming title. So they're also promising iconic locations and modes. So if they can deliver exactly like you've said, if they can deliver, then this would more than likely be something that'll stick around for quite a while, and we'd probably end up seeing tournaments, you know, on the scene, you know, at events like Rage and Comic-Con, etc.
Did I just make a point and comment in there that, hey, well, you don't really need, okay, you need battery life, but maybe that's the answer to load shedding when it comes to Call of Duty?
Oh.
Yes, okay, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So now just make sure all your battery packs are fully charged, so that you can just spend the whole night jamming Fortnite or Call of Duty on your phone.
It might solve the problem. It might.
It would be awesome if you could actually port your player profile into your mobile, and from mobile to console or PC. I wonder if they're going to do that. That would be interesting if they do that. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to shift on over into the new territory. Shani, please, before I get to the shoutcasting, there are, and I'm not exaggerating, there's about 8 out of 10 people that I talk to on a daily basis and have to explain what esports is. Can you please, being so well involved in the industry, give us the truth behind esports, what it is, and then esports in South Africa?
Right, so esports, for those of you who aren't familiar, it is competitive video games. People make money from playing video games. So your mom telling you to get off the PC, stop sitting so close to the television, it's going to make your eyes square. That grind does pay off if you manage to actually make it into the top tier of competitive gaming. So obviously, with regards to it being in South Africa, overseas is far more developed, and they do have far more of an esports culture, especially in like the Asian region, where like you walk into a coffee shop and there's people playing on gaming notebooks, and it's just a common occurrence there. And then, of course, in the States, you've got massive prize pools for bigger tournaments. And then in South Africa, we have seen a bunch of tournaments step it up. We did have million-rand prize pools over the past couple of years, but then they kind of slowly fade away again. And then you're like, well, where is the kind of continuity there? And you have a bunch of tournament organizers in South Africa trying to set down like grassroots level, but then also be able to provide our different titles with continual tournaments, not necessarily for the biggest prize money, for at least continue to compete. Because, and I say this time and time again, I remember DGC, so this was before it was rebranded as VS Gaming, but like the Do Gaming League and the Do Gaming Championship that happens downstairs in the Rage basement. So that was, it used to be completely out of the public eye in total, and it was just people who had passes who could get down there. I know they opened it up to the public in the last year that it was still housed at Rage. But I mean, I remember when players were playing for keyboards and Raru vouchers. And now they're actually getting a chance to play for prize pools, which can actually pay for flights to be able to make it worth flying up to Johannesburg to make it for Rage. Upgrades on the rigs and everything like that. So obviously the different titles do have different monetary values that are placed on them. So obviously CSGO and Dota being one of the two of the bigger esports in the country, but then of course Fortnite just having a ton of money invested into it. Apex has now gotten a bunch of like money invested, and Apex isn't exactly esports ready. So if they manage to like pull that off, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see about that. I know that FIFA is absolutely massive. I mean, we saw VS Gaming do that massive FIFA tournament. Well, no, not FIFA. eFootball, sorry. Not allowed to use the word FIFA. But eFootball, and then, of course, Call of Duty. I'm trying to steer away from only being that Call of Duty person. But, I mean, we do have COD today getting to compete. We've got guys like ACGL that are doing everything. They've got Siege. They've got, like, so much stuff happening on Xbox and PlayStation as well. So, I mean, COD is mainly on PlayStation, but when it comes down to it, ACGL also do have those Xbox leagues. So to get back to answering the point is that esports, competitive gaming, you can make a living from it overseas. So not so much in South Africa just yet. I mean, we did see the Bravado CSGO team go over to the States and then place really well. They came second at DreamHack, but now have since not broken up because a bunch of the players have gone over to play for Denial, so they're still flying the South African flag over there. But I mean, not really a viable career path in South Africa just yet, as you need to quit your day job. But in being able to make extra money on the side so far, I mean, it's come a long way from the 10, 15 years ago where, like, keyboards and Raru vouchers. So that's my take on the introduction, I guess.
I think that's a very good nutshell to present to mom and dad and everybody else that always says to me, what? And then I always have to explain the e-sports side of things, you know. I think earlier when we had a quick chat, one of the best ways to describe it is like, you know, when you go and watch a game of soccer, the same thing happens with esports. People fill out a stadium to watch 10 gents and ladies sit on a stage and verse each other in competitive gaming. So that does happen. If you don't believe us and you think we are smoking our socks, yes, just smash Google, hit the image tab, and your mind will be blown. Okay, cool. So now the final question from me is, what made you sway over into casting, and how's it been going for you?
So the casting story is, I have a very different origin story when it comes to casting as opposed to every other caster that's ever made it ever. Not that I've made it in any way, shape, or form, but usually with casting, so if you're not aware of what casting is, as we just said with esports, is the exact same as if you go watch a soccer game. If you watch a soccer game on TV, then you have the commentators that are talking over what's happening in the game. That's what casters are. We're basically commentators. It's what we talk about over different titles within esports. So I commentate over competitive video games. So casting for me, like I said, I had a very different trajectory to like run-of-the-mill casters is that you put yourself out there. This is what you need to do. You need to jump on and cast as much stuff, whether it's scrims, whether it's like tourneys that are free to enter, and you're just like, guys, can I stream the game? Can I cast the game? And you need to put as much content out there, as many VODs as you can, put a show reel together, and eventually somewhere, someone, if you're doing, or someone somewhere, eventually if you're doing a good enough job, they'll be like, cool, we want you to cast our events, and that's how you get your foot in the door. Of course, there's a lot of luck involved with that as well. I've watched so many of the casters that I look up to. So if you're an Optic Gaming fan, you'd be familiar with Hex. So Optic Hex does this podcast that's called the Eavesdrop Podcast, and he has like different members from the community that come on, and they literally have a conversation like we're having now, but it's an hour-long podcast, and it's the most interesting thing because it's not super structured where it just becomes a like very organic conversation. And he had Maven on one of his podcasts, and Maven is probably one of the better known or most well-known Call of Duty casters. Currently, he is one of the faces of the CWL, which is the COD World League, and he just said that, you know what, there was a lot of luck involved with being in the right place at the right time, and I feel that's what happened with me, and I was very fortunate that, yes, not taking anything away from myself, in that you commented earlier and you actually gassed me up a lot saying the amounts of growth that I've had in the last couple of years. I put the grind in, and that is a lot of grind that went on behind the scenes, whereas usually casters are in the trenches showing the streams. I was completely opposite in that I went to the launch of World War II. I've been watching Call of Duty competitive since Ghosts. I've been very involved in the community. I went to all of the lands that were in Johannesburg. I was there rooting for it. Team Adept and Energy Fear were like teams that I would support because
Sorry, there's a freaking fly. Sorry, Shani. It's landing on my nose, and I can't focus on you. I'm going squint. Sorry. I know I interrupted you there. I felt like Kanye West now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, he has some moments of laughter there. So to get back on track there, casting, you're usually sharing a lot of yourself on the internet, whereas I went to the World War II launch. It was at the Metal State Studios, and I've been watching so much competitive esports, and I went to the lands, and I was supporting the guys, and I remember when Astro were like the undefeated the team for Call of Duty, and Barry said to me, so Barry Anthrax Lazada, he was like, Shani, why don't you cast? And I looked at him like, man's been smoking his socks. I was like, you're crazy. I don't have the game knowledge. I don't know. I can host and I can do interviews. Like, cool, let me do that. He was like, no, man, it's a new game. Everyone needs to learn it. And that kind of planted the seed. So I went away. I thought about it the weekend because I'll still never forget it was a Friday. And I went away. I thought about it the weekend. I chatted to a very close friend of mine who has asked to remain anonymous. So I'll keep him anonymous. But I had a chat with him before I spoke to anyone else. And I was like, do you think I'm able to do this? He's like, listen, if you're willing to put in the grind, go for it. Like, anyone can learn the game because Call of Duty gets a new game every year. So all of the players need to start getting used to the new meta anyways. Monday morning, I had a phone call with Sam Wright, who's Tech Girl. She's obviously doing the most. She's actually jumping on a plane to Japan tomorrow to go do some greatness. She actually was in Paris 2 weeks ago hosting the Splatoon European Championships, I'm pretty sure, Splatoon 2. So obviously probably one of the females that I look up to, at least in South African esports, and that she's been able to get on the grind as well and be able to get to where she is and being recognized for it. So I said to her, Sam, I want to start casting. She was like, Shani, you need to be able to put the hours in for this. And that's what I started doing. I jumped in. I was still even on Xbox at this stage. I didn't even have my PlayStation yet. And I jumped in. I learned the game modes. Well, I already knew the game modes, but I learned the maps backwards. I was playing with, I had a very closed circle of friends that I would trust with, guys, I'm trying to think of getting into casting, but I don't want to make a big scene about it because, and why, I don't think I've ever discussed this publicly, but why I went and approached casting the way that I did is, A, I was a female, B, I hadn't ever expressed any interest in esports previously as in forms of getting involved. Obviously a massive supporter. I mean, Nick Holden and I were discussing how I was there rooting for Nick and Clint, well, Zombie Dread, long before ACGL was even a thought. That was a whole bunch of other stuff. So I was female. I wasn't really had ever expressed interest in esports as becoming involved with the production side or the talent side. And then over above everything else, but given that, yes, I didn't compete myself, a lot of the assumption was going to be that, what is this chick thinking? Like, what does she know? So I try to avoid having people have those prejudgments of my casting before ever hearing me cast, which the second I got announced, of course, all of those inbox messages flooded saying like, Shani, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And by that time, I had grinded so much that I was happy to be on stream for people to hear me cast because I wasn't umming and ahhing anymore, and I had put in the hours. And that's when people came back and was like, wow, okay, you know what you're talking about. Shani hitting us with the knowledge. And I was like, well, yeah, I've been playing the game. I know what I'm talking about. I wouldn't set foot on a cast if I didn't. And that's how I started and got involved with casting. And it was very different to how you usually approach casting, as I said. But I put in the very hard work. And I feel like I'm like boasting a little bit in that regard. But people don't really appreciate, this is across the board for any esports. People don't really actually able to comprehend how much of a grind it actually is to be at the top of your field for playing at the top level with the competitors across the board. I mean, if you're not putting in 8 hours a day, then you know you're going to fall. There's going to become that skill gap between the different teams. And then if you're not putting in the grind, how are you supposed to be able to commentate over it? If you're not putting in the grind, when the meta change comes in, you're not going to be aware of it. And then you're going to jump into a card and be like, well, we should be seeing this. And then meanwhile, spawns have actually changed slightly. And you're like, eh? So, I mean, that's just the thing, is that esports in general, it's not easy. It's not an easy industry to get into. So like I said, it was I put in the grind. I had someone that had planted that seed, so I was very lucky in the form that I happened to be in a conversation that led to other conversations. But when it came down to it, I recorded so many solo casts, which, I mean, if anyone's been watching my streams recently, I mean, 8 out of 10 casts that I do are usually solo because people aren't available when the games are happening. And I'm happy to jump in and solo cast because my original casting practice was all solo. And all of my original VODs were all solo. And COD is not the easiest things to solo. Solo casting in general is not the easiest thing. So, not to toot my own horn then, but I know I still have a ton of stuff that I need to work on this. I love the saying that comes in, especially on Twitter, I see it a lot. If you're not learning, then you're losing. So, of course, if that L comes in and you do need to take it, whether it's in a series or whether it's just in like an exam or whatever, if you're not learning from that experience, then you've only lost. But if you're losing, but you're learning from that experience, then you're not actually losing. So it comes down to, I know I have a ton of stuff that I still need to work on. I watch my VODs after every video and I like clip it and I like send it to people that I trust. And I'm like, listen, how do I improve this? What should I have done here? Blah, 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 blah. I have a very close circle of people that I trust very well. And I mean, that's how it goes, is that you're continually improving to be the better person. That I had the same conversation with Sam Plays at Rage last year. He was like, oh, you were planning on going overseas? And I'm like, for right now, I just want to be the best caster that I can be to showcase the talent that we have in this country. Then I'll start thinking about other stuff. But for right now, I need to focus on being the best caster that I physically can be. And whether that hits a level cap, then cool. Then I know that I've achieved that. But I feel like it's that same as Matthew McConaughey with that Oscar speech of he's saying he's continually chasing that person that's 10 years. And as soon as you catch up with that person, you're supposed to already be chasing that next level. So I feel that's casting. And that's anything in general, of course, but particularly relating back to the point here, that's how I got into it, and that's what I'm focusing on now, I guess.
It's really awesome to hear exactly what you've just said with regards to the time and effort and stuff that you've actually you've accepted it. And it's not tooting your own horn. I promise you, standing at Rush last week, not last week, wow, listen to me.
Whoa.
It is brain shedding, okay? Brain shedding, last week, time travel, all that kind of stuff. Standing at Rush last year, there we go, and seeing you grab that position on stage for the first time with your butterflies and owning it the way you did, it was a humbling experience to see just how things have changed and how you've owned your space. So again, Shani, congrats. Seriously, congrats. So nothing you've said tonight at all is being vain. It's the truth. Esports is huge. The entire industry is far bigger than people actually give it credit for. So being able to stand on one of those little rickety boxes in the middle of the ocean going like this while the squalls are going all around you and hold your little flag and say, I'm still here. You've done it, and you've done it with pizzazz. Cool. So now we are going to quickly get on to the last two questions from our viewers. The one that I said I was going to get to from Edgar is, what was your favorite moment in South African esports?
Oh, that's an easy one. That is such an easy one. So I actually have two, but outstanding favorite moments of absolute all time had to be Mag Cup all the way back for Black Ops 3. We had ACGL hosting, of course. We had Benson down from the COD World League. He was our guest caster for that event. And that moment in the CTF, like Benson absolutely went crazy. I mean, it went absolutely viral. All of us sitting watching that game of CTF. I can't even remember the teams that it was with. I just remember Benson absolutely losing his mind about the CTF. And he was like, I think that's the best closing to a game I've ever seen in Black Ops 3 in my life. And it was just probably, Cards Today, if anyone are watching, they'll know exactly the moment that happened. So that absolutely, I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about it now. Like, seriously, just that moment with Benson casting over a Call of Duty South Africa game and then having it go viral the way that it did and getting so many eyes on the local scene was probably the biggest thing for me. The second one, because I said I did have both, and funnily enough, they're both esports related and they're both Call of Duty related. But this is, and unfortunately, there's no stream for this. There's no stream like data because there was some funky business that went on in the Metal State studio last year for the World War II studio with the World War II season. But Jason will remember. So Jason Beyond is obviously my co-caster for Metal State last season. And I'll never forget, Bravado were playing against, it wasn't against Energy, or it may have been against Energy. I'm not sure who the team that they were playing against was, but they needed to win the CTF. It was the third map, they needed to absolutely win it. I'm pretty sure there were 2 flag captures down in the CTF. It was on Flak Tower, and Cerberus was still playing on the team. And for some miraculous happening, there were 2 flag caps down, and the time was ticking away against them. Cerberus like chucked the Kobe of his life with his Syntax, and it like flew over the map, managed to get a kill. Lithium picked up a 2-piece, and then they ended up winning that CTF in order to push it to the game 4. And I will never forget that as long as I live. I'm really, really, like sad. I need to go back. It's either Energy or it's Vinco. It's one of the two. It was one of those teams. And I just remember, like, Cerberus coming in with that crazy Kobe of the nade and Lithium picking up the kills where he did and managing to push it to the game 4. And it's not on stream. Because if you go watch the VOD back, like, we cut and then we suddenly come back and, like, the studio is just like, okay, well, you guys are back on. We were like, we didn't know we ever went off. Like, hi, if you're just joining us, we're back. So we got to witness it. So the only people that actually really got to witness that was myself and Jason. And it was like, it was the greatest moment I've ever witnessed as a caster. And I'm very sad that there's no VOD for it because we lost our minds with the nade that came in. But so those are so that's a brilliant question, Edgar. I know there's going to be a ton more moments to look forward to, of course, with the season. But has to be that World War II Kobe and the 2-piece or 3-piece coming in from Lithium to win that CTF. And there's no VOD for reference.
Yo, can you imagine the views on that if somehow a backup can be found somewhere? Barry, go scrub those hard drives. Barry, oh, don't hate me. I'll come and do it for you. Okay. All right. So then we have a very strong comment here from Saltlight Gaming saying that it is time for the rest of the world to recognize South Africa as a gaming community, whether it comes to esports casting or online servers. I don't think anybody could say that any better. You know, there's this line from a movie, and I can't remember what movie it is, but you know, the line says it's after like a massive battle, and the enemy thinks that the other side's been taken out, obviously the hero side, and they're sitting down in the trenches, all like downtrodden, and somebody gets up and does a speech and says the whole thing, but the closing line is, "But we're still here."
Oh, that's Matrix. I'm pretty sure
Yes, it is.
we didn't hear that, maybe the microphone, but that's Matrix. I'm pretty sure that's Matrix.
Yes, they're standing in Morpheus, yes, Morpheus, and they're standing at the bottom. What's the city called?
They're up. I saved you twice.
Okay, all right, yes, all right, okay. So it was the caves, and we're still here. And then this massive party breaks out, and it's this epic scene in the Matrix. It's Revolutions. Yes, thank you so much for that. Do you know how long that's been in my mind? And I just haven't figured out which movie it's from. But yeah, I can still see Morpheus's face going, "We're still here." So world. There's much more to South Africa than hippos, lions, giraffes, and the safari. And load shedding and braais. We have a humongous community of enthusiasts, cross-board, gaming, esports, streaming, just even in casual ways of playing on console, PC, mobile phones. We're huge. And I'm going to go out and say it on internet TV. We deserve to receive titles, at least be third on the list in the crowd of places in the world that get it, because the consumers are hungry for your content. The consumers want to play your titles. The consumers are ready to spend that money and stream your content, whether it be for personal channels or, things at home. Get here. See what it's all about. I would say get to Rush. Get to get to Comic-Con, Rage, get to Rage, and come and experience what the South African community is actually about. You will not believe it until you actually see it. Same way we said to you earlier, if you do not believe us about esports, Google it and let those pictures blow your mind. So, yeah, we have talent. That's exactly. Zion. Edgar, thank you. It's Zion. Oh, wow. I'm going to, when the stream's done, I'm going to go and pop myself, a drink somewhere and just go and sit outside and have the biggest sigh of relief. Because you have both both unburdened me.
We've solved the puzzle.
Yes, the one that was the brainworm. So, Shani, thank you so very, very, very much for coming through and letting us pick your brain and educate the people out there that need to know these things about how do they get involved, and what it's all about, and not take things for granted when they see you on your streams, that know how much hard grind goes behind it, and how much recognition you guys actually do deserve. So thank you.
No, well, thank you so much for having me. And just to end off there, it's not also just off the backs of the few. Hey, there's spots open for everyone to come and cast. I know VS have an open call to say, hey, if you want to be a registered caster, this is the details that you need to fill in. If I know Maisel State, okay, they have closed them now because the Pro Series and the Open Series are continuing, and I'm sure that they'll open up again next leg. But, I mean, they had an open casting call to say, guys, if you want to cast the games, we're not streaming them so that you can stream them. And, I mean, if you've ever thought about casting in your life, of course, I'm getting very intense in the esports side, but, I mean, we need casters in South Africa. It shouldn't just be 2 or 3 people for each title. We need a talent pool. As much as we've got a really talented side for the esports, I mean, that comes along with the streaming as well. Just start. If you're thinking about it now, if you're thinking about starting to stream or starting to create a YouTube channel, just start. Whatever your excuse is, just start. Obviously, streaming does have, I mean, when you start a YouTube channel, whether it's gaming or not, there's YouTube for starting a channel. Then there's YouTube that will need gaming, because obviously there is a certain level of technical requirements. And then, of course, over and above that, if you want to start streaming, there is, yes, that baseline of technical requirement that you need. But just start. Just start. No excuses. Just start.
Absolutely no excuses. Everything has been covered. You've been told how to do it. Get out there. We're looking forward to your success stories. So, yes.
You can be on the couch. So you can be on the couch next.
Yes, you can be on the couch next. So if you are wanting to start and getting it done, record your progress. That is very, very important. keep, if you're doing recordings or just like Shani was saying, she then does post edits, etc. Keep your very first episode. Don't ever toss it. Have you still got your first?
Yeah, and it'll never see the light of day again.
Aww.
I have it, and maybe when I end up hitting like 100,000 subscribers, because we'll get there, friends, we'll get there. But maybe one day I'll bring them out of the archives. But you know you're doing well as a content creator or streamer where you watch old work and you cringe because you think, oh my goodness, I thought this was good. Whereas at that time, that was the best that you could possibly do, and you were proud of it. And you know that you've made progression if you've passed that level of comfort zone. So I have my first stuff. It'll never see the light of day, but I have my first stuff.
Yep. So I'm going to say there's 100% truth in that. I mean, if you're watching this video now, just hop on over to the Code Bros YouTube channel and scroll to the very first video, the very first stream that we've done. And back then, again, I was like, yeah, we got a video out. It looks so cool. And even one of the people commented there saying, please stop using a potato as a camera. And I was like, but a potato is all I've got, man.
That's fine. That's 100% fine.
So if you've got a potato, use your potato and own your potato. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, go and take a look at people's progression and try and not just emulate it, but improve on it. So if there's anything that you guys have taken away from tonight, it is have faith in yourself. And growth will follow, no matter what, no matter where you find yourself. Just take a look at Shani, yeah. The amount of growth. Any case. Oh, no. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you weren't with us on the live stream, but you are watching this on the DVR version, please do drop a comment there so that we can keep track of things that you might have wanted to know about, and we can obviously respond via the comment section. So thank you very much, guys. I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to hand over the mic to Shani to say goodnight, and then we are going to turn off.
So, given my YouTuber DNA, if you want to follow me on any forms of social media, that is Shani_ZA, that is CHANI_ZA on all the forms of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My Twitch doesn't have the underscore, so it's ShaniZA, and that is going to be me. Thank you so much for having me, Jean. I know he has wandered off into the back of the streaming room, but it is seriously so great to have been here. Of course, if you haven't made your way out to the Code Bros Cafe, make sure that you come and check it out. It's actually really, really cool. They've got 2 dedicated gaming rooms that are fully kitted out, and it's just such an amazing vibe. It's been great to be here, and I expect to see more of you that come back and be like, Shani, hey, we took that advice, and even if it's not from me, if it's from anyone else that you've taken advice from, then make sure that you're heeding that advice and you're continuing that grind forward. But that's going to be it for me. I have no idea how much longer I have to talk because I haven't been told if we're going to be going offline yet, but have a wonderful evening further, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.